Back in our little cubby hole once again for another one of our Mike and Mike's off-air podcasts. By the way, please do like and subscribe on YouTube with our YouTube channel. That way you can actually see us waving at you right now.
That's it.
Mike Pesto over here.
Mike O'Neill on the other over here. And before you get started, I checked something out. I talked about this on the air yesterday. You know, we Californians, we all surf, right? We all live by the beach. We all only vote blue, or lots of other assumptions along those lines about California. But a new report is challenging one of the most widely held beliefs that we Californians pay the country's highest taxes.
So I would have thought it would either be us or Hawaii. And maybe it goes back and forth either way, but that's not accurate?
Well, according to this report, we are close to the national average for families in the bottom 80% of the income scale.
Really?
For the bottom 40% of families, our taxes are lower than states like Florida and Texas.
Woohoo!
Yeah, and for families earning $145,900 or less, we're not a high tax state. But top earners making more pay more than anywhere else in the nation, indeed. So maybe it's the rich complaining the loudest and the most. I don't know. I just found that interesting.
They have the most lobbyists, I'll tell you that much. You know what? Since you brought that up, I had something in mind that I wanted to talk about, but we can put that on the back burner because this is something I've been kind of meaning to talk about for a while anyway. California, those who live here, especially here in the Valley, you hear a lot of complaints about California. There's air quality. There was a report that came out last week. Thanks to Fresno shaping things up a little bit, apparently, or just because of where we happen to be on the map. And when the air comes in through Stockton and pushes all the bad stuff down, it backs up at Bakersfield at the Grapevine and kind of works its way from there. So Bakersfield this year, once again, I think always does, has the worst quality in the nation. Visalia was at number 2 this year, followed by Fresno. Then I want to say there was a city in Oregon, and then San Jose was actually number 5 as far as worst quality of air.
I'll tell you this. When I lived on the coast, I moved from the coast here back in 96. I didn't know I had allergies over there. When I came here, I sure found out I did. And for whatever reason, in the last few days, it's just been rough.
It always is for me this time of year. Spring, everything in bloom, especially you've seen where we live. We live in a nice little area in Visalia where Packwood Creek kind of runs right beyond the property line. So there are trees everywhere, and every single one of them have flowers on them right now. And all that pollen is going right into my face every time I go outside.
Thank God for my Allerclear tablet every single day in the morning, and then I do the Flonase at night, and without those, I'm a teary, snotty mess. With them, I'm by and large pretty cool.
I have the Flonase, or a knockoff, the Kirkland variety, in the studio, and I keep forgetting because I have it tucked around a corner, so it's one of those out of sight, out of mind deals. I forget that it's there, so I got to remember to hit that every once in a while. But I'm kind of going in the opposite direction of what I wanted to do, is talk about all the great things that there are to be seen, had to be done because of the fact that we live here in California. I want to bring up, there's a little bit of a pet peeve of one. It's great. It's phenomenal that of the 2 Disneys in the country, we have the original.
That's exactly how I tell my Floridian wife. It's a big giant resort. Yeah, you know what? We had the original. Checkmate.
Yeah. Now, granted, the one in Florida, not because I've been to both.
It's amazing.
The castle at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, the most magical place on earth, that's what they call themselves, is like 10 times the size of the castle here.
I know.
I remember we went on that trip to Walt Disney World with the family a few years ago. We went to Disneyland. The next trip we went, as you're making that turn around the bend and you get to Main Street, USA, and you look down and you're like, oh, where's the rest of it?
Compared to the other one.
Compared to the one at Walt Disney World. But we have the original. And I had a friend of mine at one point that worked for Radio Disney. I have been on the back lot. I have seen where different sitcoms have been shot. If you saw, the the real life version of Mary Poppins, the Mr. Banks. I forget that it was a Disney movie.
I remember it. It was good.
A lot of that, most of it was shot with Walt Disney's offices, and Walt Disney was played by Tom Hanks. All of that was shot at that back lot, and I got on that lot after I had seen that movie. So it's like they shot this scene there and that scene there, and this sitcom was shot over here. All of that takes place within a day's trip drive of where we live here in the South Valley. And where else in the world can you say that?
Look, I love California. I know for a fact I am never not going to be living here. I know for a fact. In fact, when I met my wife is from the East Coast, as I've mentioned many times, and when she came here and when we fell in love, I said, listen, enter into this, please. I'm going to be honest from the beginning, knowing I'm never leaving this state. Ever. Let me underline the word ever.
Now, vacations don't count, as we talked about last week with your retirement plan.
We're going to visit wherever we want to go and hang out for as long as we want. But my home will be here. My first year of college was in Denver, Colorado. What a gorgeous state that is. The mountains are amazing. When the aspen turns in the fall, just gold for miles. Oh. But there's no beaches. And I came home. I thought about it. I'm like, this is great. Huntington Beach is nowhere to be found. And I love the beaches here. I just absolutely love them. There's so much about California I like. But, I mean, the gorgeousness of the Rocky Mountains couldn't bring me away. Mm-hmm. Couldn't haul me away.
Yeah, we've got the Sierras. It's not quite the same, but on a clear day, there's a picture that I will post up every once in a while as the main picture on my Facebook page. And it says, love where you live. And it's a picture of downtown Visalia. You see the steeple for the Visalia Fox. And in the background, on a very clear day, you can see the mountains. And I showed, and whenever I post that up there, I have friends still, obviously, in other parts of the country where I've lived over the years, Peoria, Illinois, and outside of Chicago. And they all say, you can really see that from where you live? Like, not every day, to be fair, getting back to the whole air quality issue. But yeah, on clear days, absolutely. And most months out of the year, they're snow-capped, at least the very tips of them, and even in the summer sometimes.
Even here, the mountains behind where we live, I mean, with all the rain that came, I mean, there's still snow up in those stupid mountains.
And there will be up until July, even August. I remember the first year I lived here, on clear days, I kept looking up there. I'm like, when's all the snow going to melt? And some people tell me there are some years there's always a little bit of snow just on the highest peaks.
Yeah, the Lake Kauai is already full. It's been full for a while. Normally, it doesn't top out till about Memorial Day, May 31st. But it's right there right now. And when all that melts, be interesting to see where that's all going to go. But there's so much about California. When I lived on the coast, I lived in Arroyo Grande for a while. I lived there for 4 or 5 years. Michael, I didn't wear a jacket for 5 years. The weather for me was literally perfect. Literally perfect. It was too cold for my wife, who slowly but surely has become colder and colder and colder and likes the weather here. And I mean, there's a lot of people. My father, who lived in Southern California, that was heaven for him. The city of Anaheim was perfect for him. And he considered where we lived to just get too stinking hot, just crazy, crazy hot. If it didn't get this hot, my wife would be in big trouble because she likes the hotter weather now.
Yeah, I had gotten used to it. I mean, it happens. I lived in Las Vegas for a while where it does get a little hotter than it gets here typically in the summer months. But having a pool now became a game breaker. I have gotten to the point where July, August are, I wouldn't say they're my favorite months out of the year, but it's darn close, especially on a weekend where you finish up the yard work that has to get done. You've got that sweat that's pouring into your eyes. You take a quick shower to get the sweat off your body, and then you spend the rest of the day in the pool. When it cools down, you hit the barbecue to make sure everyone's got something to eat, and that's my little slice of heaven every single day.
I don't own one, but I grew up with one. Mm-hmm. I grew up with two in Southern California, and and if you're as insane as my father was, sometimes it's just hot out, and like you were describing, we were working all day, and he just says, "We're done." And literally just the heck with the shower. He straightened the pool, clothes on, and all of it. And my mom's like, "Oh God, here they go again. Because if Dad's going in, all of us are like, he checked off it was okay, we're in. And then we're like, okay, I'm in the pool. Oh, crap, what's in my pockets? But, there were no cell phones back then. So, but yeah, I mean, a pool is great. It's absolutely heaven. But we don't have one, so we have to go to the gym. That's our pool.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
That's our pool. There's so much more, though, in California.
Yeah, and even here in the Valley, because friends of mine will say, okay, well, let me get this straight. You're not by the ocean. No. You're not in the mountains. No. But, again, and I've never done this, and I'm hoping to do this at some point, literally in the same day, at the very least the same weekend, go up into the mountains and experience the snow, or go to the General Sherman, or experience something at Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, where people come from across the world to go to those parks. And maybe the same day, and if not that, the same weekend, then also head down to the beach and walk in the ocean.
You can do it. It's technically possible. It's only 2.5, 3 hours to the beach.
Yeah.
And way less to the mountains. It's an hour. It's an hour to the gate.
And then another hour to actually take the winding road to, and keep your eyes on the road.
Go do the little Baldy hike, or whatever one you like, and there's so many to do. It's true. It's so easy to do, and we take it for granted. I have to go drive all the way to Three Rivers. Boo-hoo, dude. It's right there. It's right there.
As someone who lived in the Midwest, yes, it was really cool being as close as we were, about an hour, maybe an hour and a half drive to Chicago, and being able to experience that. But, and we've mentioned this before on the podcast, that when Californians think about Illinois, you think of Chicago and that's it. The rest of the state is one cornfield or one soybean field after another. And when that's all there is to see and do, literally, when you live in Illinois, you make fun of people who live in Wisconsin and think all that they do is go cow tipping every single weekend.
Right.
Because there's nothing else to do there. Here, and I think this kind of dawned on me when I first moved here 13 years or so ago, and I saw Keith Urban in concert at the Save Mart Center on a Thursday night. And this was when Keith Urban was on top of the world, Keith Urban. And I got to Save Mart Center, and the entire upper bowl was blanketed off. Big old black tarp around the upper bowl. The next section down was sparsely populated. I'm thinking, why on earth isn't Keith Urban filling up the Save Mart Center, even though it's a Thursday night show? Because there's so much other stuff to do, even here in the Valley.
Yeah, it's crazy, everything that you can do. I mean, right now, I could get in my car and drive down to L.A. and go to the Getty, go to that wonderful museum. There's 100 restaurants that we talk about down there all the time, from crazy, wonderful Chicago-style pizza restaurants to incredible steak houses. I mean, there's just so many things to do down there, and and cool cities. Think of it this way: have you ever been to San Francisco just to check out San Francisco? It's amazing. And and you go down all of the crazy. What's the road?
Lombard.
The Lombard, and check out that craziness.
And the cable cars and Pier 39.
All the way to the other end. San Diego is a beautiful, beautiful city that gets warm, but it's devoid of humidity and absolutely wonderful. We spent a week at Mission Bay Resort there, my family. Absolutely gorgeous. So much fun.
If you can ever do it, and I would recommend taking as much time as humanly possible to do it, start on one end of the state or the other, either LA, San Diego area or San Francisco, and drive one. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it in the summer, because when the fog rolls in and in the summer months, it gets foggy quickly. It is every bit as thick of any Thule fog you've ever seen.
Truly.
And you're talking about driving on one where one wrong move of the wheel, you're ending up in the ocean.
Yep.
But if you can make that drive at some point and just take your time.
It's beautiful.
Stop at some of the little towns along the way. You can actually find, if you really have a keen eye, have someone else riding shotgun with you, look up on the cliffs every once in a while. You will see some of the areas where the gun turrets were after the invasion of Pearl Harbor. thinking that Japan was going to be bombing California next, and they put these turrets up right there on the coast. They're all abandoned now, and there are some of them you can actually safely get to and actually see history right here where we live. Again, that's a day trip for a lot of us here.
Now, this is a very, very cool state to live in, and I'm most willing to pay whatever taxes of whatever bracket I will fall up or down into to stay here. It's just, the weather's perfect. There's so much to do. The food is perfect. We have such a synthesis of foods here because of the Hispanic influence. I mean, we've got wonderful Mexican food.
Yes.
We have wonderful Italian food here. We have just your basic American food. Barbecue is so prevalent here, and that's good smoked barbecue is my thing. My barbecue's hot every Sunday, rain or shine. And yeah, I mean,
I can't think of whatever your interests happen to be. If you love big cities, there are plenty of them, obviously, in California. If you like rural environments, you've got the Valley. There are plenty of movies that have been shot here in the Valley that, say they're taking place in Wyoming or Arkansas, because we have such a diverse climate, such diverse regions that can be done here. So no matter what it is that you're looking to do on any given weekend, or if you want to take a week trip somewhere, of all the states in the country, I can't think of anyone that is as diverse as ours. Yes, we have issues politically, especially if you're red-leaning, and obviously the state is very blue. But again, we live in a part of the state that is incredibly red.
I know.
So there are a lot of the representatives that come from our corner of the Valley. They end up going to Washington, D.C., and then hopefully they end up bringing those who cheer for that team some of the things that they want to have here in the Valley.
It's pretty cool. I think I've named most of my favorite things. I mean, all of the wonderful amusement parks that are down south, all of the restaurant chains. In-N-Out, I don't know if it started here, but Carl's Jr. sure did. I know because I worked at one of the original ones down south, Carl's Enterprises. There's an In-N-Out on every corner in Southern California.
Yeah, I want to say they did start here. In fact, I forget how far east they've gone to this point, but there's a line where, again, having lived in the Midwest, I had never heard of In-N-Out.
And I think I don't trust anybody that doesn't know what a 3x3 is. I really don't. So,
I will say one thing in talking about the theme parks. I'm hoping this isn't a closing, that we've got a couple more things to say, because I would hate to leave with this taste in our mouths. But we're planning a little trip to go to Southern California later on this month. And I thought, okay, my wife has a dental convention that she has to go to, so she has to attend that. It's at the Anaheim Convention Center, which I'm sure you know.
I know right where that is.
Is literally a mouse ear's throw away from the happiest place on earth.
You want to stay at the Hilton right there.
We actually are staying at the Hilton because my mom has enough points and she'll never use them all. She said, I insist, I can't use all these points. This is where you're staying. So we have a place to stay. Thank you very much, Mom.
That's where our God, I can't think of what it's actually called, but like for weightlifting and all of that, it's a convention. Every single summer we go there. And we discovered the first time we went that all the parking lots for the amusement parks are all there.
Yep.
Anaheim Stadium, boom, right there. Disneyland, boom, right there. All of it's just dink, 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 right next to each other.
And that's great. But I looked for just myself and my kids to do a park hopper for the one day that we knew my wife was going to have to be at the convention center the entire day, which is going to be on a Thursday. So not even peak. While kids are still in school, we're taking them out of school for this. Any guesses? 3 tickets, park hopper, Disneyland, California Adventure.
I know it's common knowledge that it's hundreds of dollars to get in now. So I'm going to guess. I haven't looked in a long time. Remind me to tell you what I used to pay as a kid when I lived in Anaheim back in the e-ticket, the ticket book days.
Yeah.
But I'm going to guess it's somewhere near $250 a person just to gain admittance.
It's close to that. It's $657
for all three of you.
For all three of us.
Woo! That's a park hopper version, so you can go to both parks.
Correct. So the thing is, you price that against Universal Studios, it's close to about $350. Knott's Berry Farm, like $125.
Wow. But I'll tell you something. don't sell Knott's short.
No, not at all.
For 3 or 4 years, when the kids were small, we bought the 3-night, 4-day package down there. It used to be a Radisson. It's now the Knott's.
Yes.
And we've stayed there 3 or 4 times. You literally drive your car there, get out of your car, and you don't touch it again for 4 days because there's literally enough to do there and within walking distance. There's a claim jumper within walking distance of there. Not that I wouldn't want to eat at Mrs. Knott's Country Kitchen, for the love of God. Boysenberry pie, please. But that park is huge. They have so many roller coasters and craziness there that they didn't have when I grew up. It's not just the old, Liberty Bell and what's the other thing that's right there? It's like in Philly. They have they have a Liberty Bell there that's just like the original Liberty Bell.
Okay.
And the Independence Hall.
Okay.
Just like the original. It's an absolute perfect knockoff of the original. And those are there too. And a water park that's better than anything in Fresno. Sorry, I love you guys, but it's rocking. And you can go to, and that's the park hopper there.
Yeah, so when we're there, we may look at Mickey and Minnie and wave on our way to Knott's Berry Farm because that's more where we are financially at this point.
And we haven't even talked about Magic Mountain, which I'm not a Magic Mountain kind of guy anymore. I'm not. You're more of a roller coaster person than I am, and my wife. Oh my God! If there was a slingshot that could shoot you 500 feet into space, she'd be first in line and go, "Let's do this." But that's not. I'm a little. I get no, thank you. But I've been on I've been on all the big roller coasters there in my youth, and Montezuma's Revenge and the giant wooden roller coaster, which is really cool, by the way.
And again, all stuff that is a day trip for us in California because we happen to live here. Yes, there's some
drive
bad,
by it every time you go south.
But accentuate the positive, forget about the negative, and don't take for granted the fact that you live here, especially if you've lived here your entire life. And those of us, you and I, who have lived in other parts of the country, we love it here.
Yep. And can I just say, based on what I said earlier, I've been married 32 years. And I told my wife at the beginning I would never leave the state. Honey,